Well, the most maligned, buffoonish figure in recent sports memory, just unfortunately for himself, can't keep his mouth shut. I, of course, am talking about Nico Harrison, the embattled Dallas Mavericks general manager, who made the trade of the century, for better or worse, earlier this year at the trade deadline. The trade which sent shocks through the NBA world when he sent a 25-year-old, five-time first-team All-NBA performer Luka Doncic packing to Los Angeles. A shock to everyone involved, including Luka Doncic himself, who continues to take the high road, who continues to conduct himself almost in an unprecedented manner in terms of his class and dignity for a superstar of this caliber who was burned publicly at this level. He continues to take the high road. Of course, we saw his tear-filled return to Dallas, and he recently sat down one-on-one with Malika Andrews for an interview in which he basically said that Nico Harrison's behavior is sad and that he just wants to move on. He also said that his feeling was that of heartbreak when he initially heard of the trade. Please leave this guy alone, Nico. Quit talking about him. Take Luka Doncic's name out of your mouth, because it isn't doing you any favors in terms of repairing the relationship with the fan base. Obviously, they were holding candlelight vigils for about a week after the Luka deal, begging anybody to fire Nico Harrison. Those chants, of course, continue to ring out throughout the Dallas Mavericks facility, throughout the arena during games. Fire Nico chants. Nico Harrison himself admitted in his recent end-of-season presser that he hears the criticism, he hears the hatred.
Well, when you have 20,000 people in this stadium chanting "Fire Nico," you really feel it. I mean, I use the word awesome, but not in a positive way. Like, you can really feel how they feel.
But look, Nico ultimately isn't running. In fact, he wanted to make it known that it isn't his goal to hide from the media.
Our goal is never to run away from the media. That's part of the job, and that's the obligation.
But I mean, Nico, maybe it should be your goal, because you sound like an idiot every time you open your mouth. Just please, for the love of God, just stop talking already. This guy just can't get out of his own way. But look, he has not been fired yet, so that just only fuels the rampant speculation that Nico Harrison was instructed to execute this trade from ownership. Now, there is, of course, a myriad of conspiracy theories, including most prominently that the ownership wants to move the Mavericks outside of the Dallas market, and also that Luka Doncic was fat and lazy, not my words, theirs, and they didn't want to give him that impending supermax this summer. So Nico was instructed on high to make the trade. But in this end of season presser, Nico Harrison made it be known that that was not the case.
No, not at all. Patrick reminds me of the leadership that I had at Nike, and a really good leader doesn't tell the people that work for them what to do. It's a collective, well thought out process to make a big move like that. And then also, unfortunately, I'm super stubborn, so someone telling me to do something doesn't work too well for me.
In fact, according to Nico in this interview, it was Nico that talked ownership into making this trade.
But really, it was just, I'd said it out of the blue. And then as we started talking more, I gave him reasoning behind it. And, we're a very process-oriented organization, and everything we do is without emotion and goes through the lens of process. And so once we had those substantive discussions, then he saw the vision.
And of course, Harrison went on to double, triple, quadruple down on his defense wins championships premise.
Defense wins championships, and we are hanging our hat on defense. No, I think it's really doubling down on defense. And like I said, when we had the opportunity to get Anthony Davis, who is one of the best two-way players in the league, we jumped at that opportunity.
And Nico has been mouthing off about defense ever since the trade was made, and it kind of seemed as if many of the writers on hand and the media, the assembled press, were just trying to lead Nico Harrison into an elaborate series of I got you moments here.
Hi, Nico. Joey Mastretta with Clutch Points. Going off that question, you've made it very clear defense wins championships, and that's a very respectable mentality, old basketball saying.
And if I were Nico Harrison at this point, I would be getting pretty nervous about where this line of questioning was heading to. I felt like I was watching a lawyer movie. Where is counsel heading with this line of questioning? Again, I feel as if there's some elaborate I got you moment coming up here, and predictably, there was.
Looking at Luka Doncic, he did get this team to the NBA Finals last year. When you look at Luka Doncic, do you consider him a championship level player?
Now, Nico tried taking the high road and not publicly criticizing Luka.
You know, that's kind of an unfair question. Luka's no longer on this team.
Because as we know, there was a closed door meeting where media was not allowed. There were no microphones, cameras anywhere to be seen, in which Nico again recently was allegedly trashing Luka Doncic, his conditioning and his commitment to basketball. But at least in this presser with the cameras on, Nico was attempting to take the high road and try to tap dance his way through several of these questions. But one of the assembled press had a pretty clever I got you moment in which he asked a question about the Denver Nuggets, who won the NBA championship just 2 years ago in the 2023 playoffs, and they did only have the 15th rated defense, net rated defense that year when they won the championship. And that guy, whoever he is, yeah, he got you, Nico.
What's just your analysis of how, I guess, that Nuggets team won the championship?
You know, I don't want to dismiss your question, but I'm not concerned about the Nuggets. I feel like we have a championship caliber team when we're whole, and we're going to hang our hat on defense. We're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league, and I think that's going to be our calling card.
I don't want to belittle or diminish your question, but I'm going to go ahead and belittle and diminish your question. And Nico just continues to belittle and diminish Luka Doncic. And I just, for the life of me, cannot figure out why. Nico, you continue to look lousy in this equation. Firstly, you're not even playing anymore. You guys didn't even qualify for the playoffs. Of course, injuries did factor into that equation prominently, but that is obviously a risk when you trade for Anthony Davis, who is as injured as any star player has been that we've seen in recent memory. Also, let's just go ahead and say that Luka Doncic was all the things you were asserting that he was, meaning fat and lazy, namely that he lacked commitment. Well, this guy in his lacking commitment got you to 2 conference championships by the age of 25, got you to the NBA Finals round by the age of 25, and made, again, the aforementioned 5 All-NBA first-team selections. That would be 5 consecutive first-team All-NBA selections, and who knows, likely could have been a 6th this year if he had played enough games to qualify for that. This guy is a walking near 30-point triple-double when he is engaged for however many games he might be engaged for, and it seems like this guy is the ultimate playoff riser, one of the best we have in today's current NBA. He is, after all, the second leading playoff scorer in NBA history, one of only 2 players other than Michael Jordan to average at least 30 points per game in his playoff career, and you traded him for an aging out, injury-prone Anthony Davis, essentially, and 1 first-round draft pick. This is a deal that Nico continues to prop up. This is a deal that he continues to praise and talk highly about, continues to reference how good they are defensively, how they view this team as a championship contender, and how when they get healthy this summer and into next season, that they're going to show that out and they're going to be a championship contender. But look, Kyrie Irving is coming off of that ACL tear. Who knows when he's going to be back? He's also getting up there in years. So, I mean, when is Kyrie going to be back? Maybe after Christmas, potentially? How far down in the seed lines are you going to be? Probably fighting an uphill battle at that point in the playoffs, somewhere around 4 or 5 at best. And really, bottom line, if you think that highly about this trade, Nico, please just stay quiet and let us see it. Quit the pontificating. Quit getting in front of cameras, because you continue to look worse and worse and worse. So please, Nico, this is advice from the bottom of my heart. Shut the hell up. just go away. Your season is now over. Just be quiet for a couple months. Come back and let's see if you can actually keep these players healthy for some semblance of a playoff run next season. And as for Luka Doncic, well, he's still playing. He's actually in action tonight. Timberwolves-Lakers Game 2. We'll see what Luka and LeBron can do with their backs against the wall, facing, in my estimation, elimination, as they are in a 1-0 hole. The prospect of going down 0-2 heading back to Minnesota, not very good from a historical standpoint. So we'll see what response those two can muster. That will be a tantalizing little nightcap. And guys, you should likely hit that subscribe button right now and stay up to date with me, because I will be breaking that down after the game tonight, as well as more to come throughout these NBA playoffs. Until next time, guys.